All right, what is going on, Lions family? We are in day 3 of free agency. Actually, today is technically day 1 because this is the official day that teams can sign the players that they have bargained with or brought in for visits the last couple of days. But today is technically day 3 because some of the moves that happened on Monday and Tuesday, we already knew that those moves were going to happen and be signed today. So, not a lot of exciting things happening on day 3 for our Lions, but the Lions did release edge rusher Josh Paschal. Now, Josh Paschal was a second round pick, and for what it's worth, he's been pretty injury prone, and I'm willing to say that he has not lived up to what we were expecting out of a second round pick. Unlike the NBA, where a second round pick is kind of a throwaway pick, kind of it could be a developmental pick. Maybe this guy plays in the G League or something like that. In the NFL, when you draft a guy in the second and the third round, you're expecting to get something out of that guy. You're expecting him to be a starter. You're expecting him to produce, not to come in and be injured and be lackluster at best. And I think that that's what's going on with Josh Paschal. Now, I did like Josh Paschal, but he did underachieve. He was average at best, and he was injured a whole lot. I'm also reading that the Lions have not tendered longtime favorite, practice squatter Tom Kennedy. Now, and Trevor Nowaski. Now, I absolutely would not be surprised if we get into the early part of the summer when the teams are starting to go to training camp and doing OTAs, and you see Tom Kennedy back on as a practice squad. I like Tom Kennedy. I've said this before. I like those guys that can just scratch and claw and find some way to stay into the league. And Tom Kennedy is exactly that. And like I said, I would not be surprised at all if somehow you see him on the practice squad again. If nothing else, you see him go through training camp with the Lions. He seems like a long-term project, kind of like a Dan Skipper, until he officially hangs it up and then excuse me, joins the coaching staff. Now, I do want to look at the players. This says as of Wednesday, Lions players who became free agents. So these are Lions players who have either signed with other teams or the Lions have not brought them back. And let's look at the list. Kyle Allen, who we know went back and signed with the Bills. Alexander Saloni goes to the Buccaneers. Coyote Awasika is still out there. Offensive lineman Tristan Colon, two guys that, in my opinion, way underachieved when they got in the game in 2025. Linebacker Zach Cunningham, defensive end Marcus Davenport. I think the Davenport experiment is over with. Tight end Anthony Frisker. Offensive lineman Jamarco Jones. Wide receiver Ted Kennedy, as we just talked about. Defensive tackle Roy Lopez. That one I was not happy with. I was hoping that the Lions would have brought him back. DB Avante Maddox, DB Arthur Moulette, DB Jalen Mills, defensive end Al Qadim Muhammad, a guy that I wouldn't be surprised that the Lions could re-sign and might re-sign on the lower end for depth. Linebacker Trevor Nowaski, Khalif Raymond, who the Lions let go to the Bears, DJ Reader. That's interesting because I did read last night that the Lions have been in talks with DJ Reader's agent, and there's a chance that he could still come back and be with the team. What they're probably doing is they're probably working out something to let him know, listen, we actually do want you back. We need the depth at D tackle, but we're going to bring you back for the veterans minimum or something like that. And if you really want to be here, this is what we have to offer. Cornerback Mick Robinson, offensive tackle Dan Skipper, who I just mentioned, who retired and joined the training staff. Linebacker Grant Stewart, safety Daniel Thomas, linebacker Ezekiel Turner, and tight end Shane Zylstra. All of those guys I don't expect to be back. Out of that list, at the top of that list, who I really would like to, see come back would definitely be, I'm sorry. I was just looking at this list. If they can get Reader back on a lower end deal, he would be, a good impact. I'm trying to see who else on this list, who the Lions could possibly bring back, who could probably have an impact on the team. And that's probably it for that. I don't see anybody else that jumps out at me there. So also too, I want to look real quick at some of the best remaining free agents. So We talked about the Lions and the guys that they let go, they didn't bring back. We know a lot of free agents have been signed, but let's look at some of the needs the Lions have, and let's look at some of the best remaining free agents out here on offense. Let's go to with Khalif Raymond gone. Let's go to wide receivers and let's see who's out here. Let's see, going down this list. Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. I thought they was going to take me right to wide receivers, but it just took me to the first wide receiver. So guess what? We'll just kind of scroll through. We won't go through the whole 100, but we'll just kind of scroll through who hasn't signed. Sign. Most of these guys have signed. Rasheed Walker is out there. He's 26 years old. Offensive tackle. He hasn't been signed. Let's see. Signed. Reek Woolen just recently signed with the Eagles. I'm trying to see who else signed. Who else stands out on this list that the Lions could possibly look to bring in. It's interesting that what's the kid's name? Max Crosby isn't on this list, but I guess because he was traded and he wasn't officially a free agent, he will be on this list. Actually, let's talk about that real quick while I look through this list. Max Crosby, the Ravens reneged the deal. They went ahead and signed Trey Hendrickson, and they sent him back because he, tore his meniscus. So what do you think, Lions fans? Do you think that Max Crosby is worth still going after? And the reason why I bring it up is because the Ravens gave up 2 first-round picks, but then they reneged on the deal and sent him back to the Raiders, and they went ahead and signed someone else. So if Max Crosby still wanted to come to the Lions and the Lions wanted to sign Max Crosby, you probably could get him for way cheaper than what the Ravens originally got him for, because now the Lions can actually say, hey, we know that the Ravens sent him back because he failed the physical. We still want the guy, but we're not going to give up 2 first-round picks. Maybe we'll give up a second and a 5th, something like that. A second this year and a 5th in 2027, something like that. And maybe they can get the deal done there. But I don't know, Lions fans, do you think that Max Crosby is still worth going after, or do you think he could be damaged goods? I'm not finding exactly what I'm looking for. I mean, wide receiver Jawan Jennings, I don't know if he could replace Khalif Raymond. I'm trying to see who else in this. Let's just go with the top 50. Let's just see who's out here. Taylor Decker is still out there. I don't think that there will be a Lions reunion, but he's actually still out there. Let me see. Joey Bosa, I don't know, but he is still out there. Let me see. Sign. I don't know if we really need that. Brisker, he just signed with somebody. I don't remember who it is, but I want to say a couple hours ago, I read that he signed with someone. I just cannot remember who it is. Let's see. We know that he signed. So we'll just stop it right there, because I was just trying to see who was some of the best of the rest out there that the Lions could sign. I was looking more maybe at an edge, maybe a defensive tackle, maybe another linebacker that the Lions could bring in. But Lions fans, pretty much that's it. It was a pretty quiet day today, day 3 of free agency. The only thing that happened today, no moves for the Lions. Only thing that happened is that they did not re-sign Tom Kennedy and Trevor Nowatzki, and they released Josh Paschal. So give me your thoughts on what you think about the Lions and what they did in day 3 of free agency. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That's all we got for this one. Until next time, peace.